All right, so this video is all about how to buy a home here in Temecula, California when the real estate market is crashing. So I think we're all paying attention to what's going on with home prices, with home values. We're seeing, pricing dip week after week. We're seeing homes take longer and longer to sell, and we're seeing interest rates rise more and more and more. So when that's happening, and if you're going to be buying a home, I think that there's some really important things that you want to look for when you're purchasing a home to make sure you don't make a mistake and make sure that you buy the type of home that's going to keep its value over time. So let's go ahead and get into it. Hey guys, hey again, my name is Justin Short. I am a realtor and team leader for the Short Real Estate team here in the Temecula and Murrieta, California area. And this video is going to be about how to buy a home here in Temecula with a crashing real estate market. And I guess that's a little bit of a hook, really I think probably the better term is a changing real estate market. I don't know that the market is actually going to be crashing. Personally, I don't actually think that's going to be happening, but it is 100% for sure we are seeing a changing real estate market. We're seeing a declining real estate market. We've seen prices go down pretty drastically over the last couple months. I think most people are aware we've seen the interest rates jump up and up, and things are changing. And in a time like that, when the market is changing, prices are not guaranteed to go up forever. When you're buying a home, you want to make sure you're going to make a good sound investment. And so hopefully there's going to be some things I can point out for you guys to make sure that you're going to be looking for the right type of things in a home, and hopefully avoid some mistakes that would potentially cost you down the line. So first thing, if you are liking the videos, please do me a favor, please hit like, please hit subscribe. So again, it helps me, it helps the channel. If you are thinking about making a move here to the area, or if you're thinking about selling your home and moving out of the area, definitely would love to hear from you guys. You can feel free, you can call, text, email. Myself and my team, we would love to help you out with your search. We have people that reach out to us all the time. So definitely would be grateful to help you guys out, and definitely would love to hear from you. But let's go ahead and get into the video. So let's kind of timestamp this. So this is, right now I'm recording this, it's middle of October. So today's October 14th, 2022. We have seen the real estate market change drastically over the last 6 months. If you've been watching those market update videos that we do once per month, we're kind of comparing April 2022 was like the peak of the market, and so now we're seeing kind of 6 months of a decline. It was kind of steady and then kind of drastic as far as things changing. So right now we have definitely seen pricing dip month over month for the last few months. We are seeing homes take longer to sell. And I think most people realize that the number one reason for that is the interest rates have jumped up dramatically. So earlier this year, you can get an interest rate probably the low 3% area. And then right now you're in the high 6 to 7% range, depending on the type of loan that you're doing. So the interest rates have changed. And when most people are going to be financing a home, and that means you're going to get the loan. That means you're going to pay interest on the loan. And when the amount of interest you're paying increases so much, I mean, your payment's really jumping up quite a bit. So your monthly payment right now is probably going to be $300 to probably between $400 to $600 higher than it would have been earlier this year. So that's a huge change. Most people buy homes and cars and any of those types of things based on payment, not necessarily overall price point. So when the interest rate jumps up, it's really caused a big change. We'll see what's really going to happen in the future, and as things continue to change, and the Fed manipulates the rate, etc. But we can talk about right now what's happening. We're seeing definitely a much higher rate. We're seeing the real estate market has changed. We're seeing pricing's gone down. Homes are taking longer to sell, and just an overall changing market. So the biggest thing, when I've had a lot of people reach out to us lately, and they're concerned, right? You're like, hey, the market has changed. Is now a good time to buy a home? Should I wait? Are interest rates going to continue to go up? What exactly is going to happen? And they want our opinion on that. And here's kind of the truth of the matter: is 100%. I don't know, right? I definitely have my thoughts. I'm going to give you my opinions there, but nobody knows for sure what's going to happen in the real estate market. in the next 30 days, the next 90 days, or definitely, the next 3 years, right? No one can really make that prediction. What we do know is that right now the Fed has raised the interest rates dramatically over the course of the year. They have raised interest rates up to try and curb the inflation that we're seeing, right? So, and that's not just real estate market, that's just the overall economy. I think most people kind of grasp that, right? When you go to the store and you buy a gallon of milk, your gallon of milk is a heck of a lot more expensive than it was a year ago, right? And that's the problem. So when we're seeing those crazy inflation numbers, everything is much more expensive. The Fed is raising their rates in order to try and curb that and try and slow that increase. And I'm sure at some point they want to try and see a decline in that increase. And that's kind of what's happening. So it's not necessarily real estate market related, but when they raise the interest rates, that also will cause the mortgage rates to go up, and that hurts affordability, and that is causing the slowdown in the real estate industry. So it's all definitely related. But what we know is the Fed's committed to slowing the inflation rate, and this is kind of the aftermath of what's happening. So this is not going to be something that's going to change in a couple weeks. It's not going to be something that's going to change in a couple months. At some point, yes, this whole process of raising rates is going to change, but it's not today. It's going to be at some point in the future. Is that 6 months? Is that a year? Who knows? But at some point it will, but that's definitely not a today thing. So what we know is interest rates are up right now, which is causing the mortgage rates to be up, which is causing the real estate market to slow. And so when that happens, you as a home buyer really need to make sure that you're buying the right type of home that is going to be a good, sound investment over time. So what we've seen over the last couple of years, let's call it like post-COVID, right? Since the pandemic really started, is the real estate market was going so crazy that anytime most home buyers were looking to buy a home, there was a ton of factors to buying a home, as far as that could be concerns, potential detractors from homes that home buyers were not paying attention to, because honestly they didn't really have a choice. So there could be a lot of bad features on a particular property that in the past maybe would cause someone to not want to buy that home or make that home undesirable. And over the last couple of years, because of supply and demand issues, home buyers had to just kind of ignore those. So they overlooked those detractors. They overlooked those bad features. And so I think that's probably the biggest thing that I can tell you guys is when we're in a super crazy real estate market like we saw over a couple of years, yeah, maybe people would overlook negative aspects to a home. But as the market has now flipped, people are not going to be overlooking those negative aspects. So if you're going to buy a home today, you need to make sure that you are looking out for those negative things, because not only is that going to affect that market for that house today, that's going to affect the market for the house when you go to sell it in the future, especially in a changing real estate market. So what I mean by that is we'll kind of go over. I have a little list here that we'll go over. So number one, look out for just super undesirable characteristics when you're buying a home. So that could, number one thing there would be like a busy street. I would really be wary of buying a home that's located on a busy street. We're going to have a lot of traffic right out front of your house. Also, I'd be wary about buying a home that backs up to a busy street that has a lot of traffic and a lot of road noise. The reason being for those two things is when you go to sell that home, it's going to be really hard to sell the home because you're going to have to find another buyer that is not okay or is okay with living next to a busy street, right? So that's going to really shrink your buyer pool. A lot of people, when they're moving out here to the suburbs area, that's a big thing. They want quiet. They want kind of a peaceful area. They want some tranquility. And if you're going to live next to a busy street, that's a huge thing. Another thing, number two, that I wanted to point out is when you are buying a home, different neighborhoods and different homes are going to have different property taxes. And again, over the last couple of years, this has not been a concern because people just kind of would buy whatever they could, right? Whatever is available, whatever home they can get their hands on. But as this market has changed, home buyers are going to pay a lot more attention to the property taxes. So if you can, I would try to buy a home that does not have high property taxes, especially especially if you're worried about affordability, if you're worried about making that monthly payment, make sure it stays within budget, or you're kind of tight on where the budget is. Buying a home with lower property taxes is going to make a huge difference, whether that's all for you, but also for your buyer, your home buyer in the future. So when you go to sell it, your next buyer is going to be concerned about their budget, and your low property taxes are going to make your property more desirable compared to another one that's a couple streets over. So I would really pay attention in trying to stick to a home that does not have those high property taxes, those high special assessments. And so what that means is probably a little bit of an older home tends to be a little bit of a safer bet. So maybe something like mid 2000s, so 2005 and older tend to have the lower property taxes. That's kind of a good general rule of thumb, where the newer houses tend to have those higher property taxes. So, but in a changing real estate market, I think you definitely want to look for something that has low taxes to keep that affordable payment for you and then your next buyer in the future. Also, the other thing, the third thing that I wanted to point out that you want to pay attention to is I would not, as a home buyer, you should not try to buy a home that's at the top of the price range for that neighborhood. Okay, so what that means is, let's say you have a given neighborhood that you're taking a look at, and the home prices are anywhere from $800,000 to $1.1 million, right? So a smaller home that maybe needs a little bit of updating is priced more than $800,000 range, and then a really, really nice home that's super dialed in and super beautiful with some cool features is $1.1 million, right? That's a $300,000 swing, right? Well, in a changing real estate market, I would really encourage you to try and stay away from the top end of that budget for the neighborhood and try and stick closer to the bottom end of that budget. So it might be a safer bet to buy something that's $800,000, $850,000, $900,000, and you can put a little bit of work into it, put $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in updates, and then you're still significantly under that top end price range. The reason being, when we're seeing a real estate market, what we tend to see as the softest type of real estate is that higher end. So the luxury market, that higher end market, tends to be the softest, which means that those are the prices that we tend to see decline the most. So you're seeing that on like a nationwide scale. So if you look at like the home prices that have changed the most this year, the ones at the top of the list are those higher end areas. So LA, San Diego, New York, San Francisco, those high end luxury markets, we've seen the biggest adjustment because there's a lot of like splurge purchases for people, right? I mean, if you're gonna go buy a home and having a quartz waterfall in your kitchen, although it's beautiful, I'm sure everyone's gonna love it, right? That is not a must-have, right? Where we see the smallest change in pricing is more of that meat and potatoes, that average price point, and that tends to be the most solid over time, right? So I would really encourage you, if you are going to be buying a home, try and buy something that is on the lower end of the price scale of the neighborhood, not at the higher end. So I think those are probably the three things that I would point out to you guys is pay attention to property taxes, pay attention to price point, and look out for those super undesirable features that your end buyer in the future is not going to want. And I guess there was actually a fourth one that I'll ramble into, and that would be school districts. So when you're buying a home here locally, paying attention to the school district is going to be a super important thing. We are in the suburbs. Most people live here for the school district, and to be in an affordable area in California and to live in a nice school district, right? And if you are not familiar with the area, you can easily buy a home here that's maybe in the wrong school district, or becomes not part of Temecula Murrieta School District when you thought that you were, and you're not going to have that. That home is not going to keep that same value long term that something that's inside the school district is going to. So out here, when you're in the suburbs and people want to be in that school district, having a home located in that district is going to be really good for your resale value long term. So there's kind of a fourth thing that I threw in there. So I hope that's really good perspective. Hopefully it gives you guys something to think about. If you want to chat about it or have any specific questions, you can definitely feel free to reach out anytime. And hopefully talk to you guys soon. Thanks for watching the video.